Imagine an ancient prophecy stored in the Vatican archives that says the papacy, one of the most powerful institutions in the world, will come to an end. It lists every pope in history and warns that the last one will see events so terrible that they will change the world forever. What if this prophecy was speaking about our time, our pope, and the city of Rome? The prophecy of St. Malachy is one of these mysteries. Written nearly 900 years ago, it lists 112 popes and warns that the final one will face unimaginable trials. Now, in 2024, we've reached the 112th pope. His name is Francis, and some believe he might be the last. St. Malachy, an Irish archbishop known for his miracles, reportedly had a vision while visiting Rome in 1139. In this vision, he saw every pope who would lead the Catholic Church from his time until the end of days. He wrote these predictions in a cryptic list, each pope described with a short Latin phrase. But the document vanished, hidden away in the Vatican's archives for nearly 400 years. Many of the prophecies seem to align eerily with history. For example, Pope Benedict XV was described as religio depopulata, or religion depopulated, a chilling match to his reign during World War I, when millions lost their lives and faith was deeply shaken. But the scariest part is what St. Malachy wrote about the final pope. He called him Peter the Roman and predicted that he would lead during a time of extreme persecution, when the city of Rome, known as the City of Seven Hills, would face destruction. After his reign, the prophecy ends. No popes, no churches, just judgment. Now let's fast forward to today. Pope Francis, elected in 2013, is not only the 112th pope, but also a figure unlike any other in the Church's history. He's the first Jesuit pope, the first pope from the Americas, and he chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis's father's name was Pietro, Italian for Peter. Skeptics argue that Pope Francis doesn't fit the terrifying role of Peter the Roman described in the prophecy. After all, he's known for his humility, compassion, and commitment to the poor. But believers say that the prophecy doesn't describe the Pope's personality. It describes the era, conflict, environmental collapse, and a world teetering on the edge of something big characterize our era. St. Malachy's prophecy is one of the most mysterious and debated stories in the history of the Church. It predicts the line of popes who would lead the Catholic Church, ending with a final pope who would face terrible events. This prophecy has fascinated people for centuries, dividing opinions between those who believe in its divine accuracy and those who think it's nothing more than a clever trick. The prophecy was said to have been written in 1139 by an Irish archbishop named St. Malachy, who claimed to have had a vision while visiting Rome. In this vision, he saw the future of the Catholic Church, with a list of 112 popes leading up to the end of time. A short Latin phrase described each pope, providing hints about their reign or identity. However, the manuscript vanished for centuries before its discovery in 1595, prompting some to doubt its authenticity. For believers, the prophecy is a powerful sign of divine intervention. They point to examples of how the descriptions align with historical figures. For instance, Pope Benedict XV, who reigned during World War I, was described as religion depopulated, which fits the devastation and loss of faith caused by the war. Similarly, Pope John Paul II's description from the labor of the sun has been linked to the fact that he was born during a solar eclipse. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. These connections give many people reason to believe in the prophecy's truth. They see it as a reminder that the Church is part of a divine plan, with every pope playing a role. Now, with Pope Francis in office, believers are on edge. They wonder if his reign could bring about the dramatic events foretold in the prophecy. Skeptics, however, have a very different view. They argue that the prophecy's vague language allows for broad interpretation, making it easy to match phrases to popes after the fact. For example, Pope Benedict XVI was described as the glory of the olive, which some believers linked to the Benedictine order, known for its symbol of the olive branch. Skeptics see this as a coincidence, not a prophecy fulfilled. There's also the issue of timing. It wasn't until 1595, over 400 years after St. Malachys' death, that the prophecy became public. This delay has led many to suspect that the list was either altered or completely fabricated by someone in the 16th century. Critics contend that it was not a genuine vision of the future, but rather a strategy to bolster the Church's authority during a turbulent period. Pope Francis's reign adds another layer of intrigue to the debate. The prophecy states that the final pope would lead the Church through great tribulation. While he was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Argentina, some believers find connections to the prophecy. Saint Francis of Assisi, his namesake, was the son of a man named Pietro, Peter, and his role as pope inherently links him to Rome. For believers, these details are enough to see his as the fulfillment of St. Malachys' vision. On the other hand, skeptics point out that Pope Francis doesn't directly match the description. They argue that the connections are too weak to take seriously. Instead, they see the prophecy as a product of human imagination, not divine foresight. St. Malachys' final prophecy foretells the destruction of the city of seven hills, commonly known as Rome. The Church itself will face unprecedented persecution, and its leader, Petrus Romanus, will guide the faithful through these dark times. According to the prophecy, this era of suffering will not only test the Church, but the entire world, ushering in an apocalyptic scenario. The prophecy doesn't provide specifics about how these events unfold, but its warnings align with broader fears rooted in religious texts like the Book of Revelation. Natural disasters, wars, famine, and moral decay are often associated with these end-time visions. If true, humanity could be on the brink of its most harrowing chapter. In this envisioned future, the world could become unrecognizable. Widespread destruction may arise from a combination of human-made and natural calamities, intensified by climate change. Superstorms, earthquakes, and floods could devastate major cities, displacing millions and collapsing global economies. Famine may spread as agricultural systems fail under extreme weather conditions, leading to mass migrations and conflicts over scarce resources. Politically, global instability could worsen. Governments might fracture under the pressure of rising authoritarianism, growing inequality, and widespread unrest. Wars could erupt over dwindling resources or ideological divides, further destabilizing the world. With trust in institutions eroding, people may turn to radical movements or false leaders promising salvation, creating fertile ground for chaos. In this world of despair, faith itself could be tested. The Church, long a symbol of stability, might fracture as its followers struggle to reconcile their beliefs with the prophecy's terrifying fulfillment. Internal divisions coupled with external persecution could weaken its influence, leaving billions of believers searching for spiritual guidance in an uncertain time. The destruction of Rome, central to the prophecy, would be a symbolic and literal blow to the Catholic Church. Whether through natural disaster, war, or societal collapse, the fall of the city would mark the end of an era. As the seat of the papacy and a spiritual hub for millions, its loss would leave the Church without its historic foundation. The fall of Rome could signal more than the collapse of a city. It might symbolize the broader decline of traditional religious institutions. As people grapple with fear and suffering, faith could transform, leading to new interpretations of spirituality or, conversely, a loss of belief altogether. St. Malachys' prophecy ends ominously with the idea of a formidable judge passing judgment on the world. This could symbolize divine reckoning, a time when humanity is held accountable for its actions. Religious interpretations of this judgment often include the separation of the faithful from the wicked, a final sorting of souls that determines eternal fate. From a secular perspective, this judgment might represent humanity facing the consequences of its own choices. Neglect of the environment, unbridled greed and failure to address global inequalities. The prophecy warns that without change, the world may reach a breaking point where recovery is no longer possible. St. Malachys' prophecy is not the only mysterious vision linked to the idea of the end times and the Catholic Church. Theorists and believers often tie St. Malachys' vision to two other prominent prophecies, the predictions of Nostradamus and the third secret of Fatima. These prophecies, with their cryptic warnings and ominous predictions, have added layers of intrigue and fear to the conversation about the future of the Church and the world. Nostradamus, the 16th century French astrologer and seer, is famous for his quatrains, which many believe foretell significant historical events. Among his numerous prophecies are those speculated to predict the fall of Rome and apocalyptic scenarios. These predictions, while open to interpretation, have often been linked to the papacy and the potential collapse of the Catholic Church. Theorists point to Nostradamus' writings about a great leader falling during a time of chaos, which they associate with the Pope. One quatrain speaks of a city of 7 hills, a common description of Rome, facing destruction. This imagery echoes the warnings in St. Malachys' prophecy, which also mentions the city of 7 hills in its description of the tribulations under the final Pope. The overlap in these two prophecies has led many to wonder if Nostradamus and St. Malachy were pointing to the same catastrophic future. Adding to this speculation, Nostradamus wrote about a great religious figure who would struggle against evil forces in the final days. Some theorists interpret this as a reference to Pope Francis, particularly given his efforts to address global crises such as climate change, political instability, and corruption within the Church. These efforts, seen by many as noble, are also interpreted by some believers in prophecy as signs of the enormous challenges the final Pope must face. Another prophecy often connected to St. Malachys' vision is the third secret of Fatima. This prophecy stems from a series of visions reported by 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, in 1917. The visions included 3 secrets revealed by the Virgin Mary, the last of which, known as the third secret, remained undisclosed for decades, fueling speculation and fear. When the third secret was finally revealed in 2000, it described a vision of great suffering for the Church, including the assassination of a pope and widespread persecution of Christians. While the Vatican has maintained that the vision referred to events of the 20th century, such as the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II in 1981, many believe it carries deeper and more ominous implications for the future. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Theorists draw parallels between the third secret and St. Malachys' prophecy, particularly the themes of destruction and tribulation. Both suggest a time of upheaval for the Church and humanity. The third secret's imagery of a pope leading his flock through suffering aligns with the description of Petrus Romanus, who is said to guide the faithful during a period of great trials. The connections between St. Malachys' prophecy, Nostradamus' predictions, and the third secret of Fatima highlight humanity's deep-seated fear of the unknown and our desire to make sense of the future. While each prophecy comes from a different source and era, they all share common themes of destruction, tribulation, and the resilience of faith. One of the most accessible ways to explore St. Malachys' prophecy is through documentaries. These productions use visuals, expert interviews, and historical analysis to bring the story to life. The Malachy Prophecy, available on streaming platforms and YouTube, offers a deep dive into the prophecy's origins and interpretations. It examines the life of St. Malachy, the historical context in which the prophecy surfaced, and the controversies surrounding its authenticity. The documentary also sheds light on the various interpretations of the prophecy across different eras, particularly in the context of Pope Francis's papacy. For viewers curious about the prophecy's symbolic and religious significance, This documentary serves as an informative introduction. Another compelling production, The Last Pope, produced by the History Channel, takes a more analytical approach. This documentary focuses on the idea that Pope Francis may be the final pope mentioned in the prophecy. It examines modern global events such as environmental crises, political instability, and religious challenges that align with the tribulations described in the prophecy. Through interviews with theologians, historians, and prophecy experts, the documentary raises thought-provoking questions about whether we are witnessing the fulfillment of St. Malachys' vision. For those who prefer a more detailed and analytical approach, several books delve deeply into St. Malachys' prophecy. These works examine its origins, symbolism, and potential implications in light of historical and modern events. The Final Pope is Here by Thomas Horn and Chris Putnam is one of the most popular books on the topic. It connects the prophecy to contemporary issues, arguing that Pope Francis's papacy aligns with the vision. The authors explore the prophecy's possible ties to apocalyptic themes, such as the rise of a global political religious figure and the end of the Church as we know it. Written with a sense of urgency, the book appeals to readers who are drawn to the prophecy's potential connection to modern-day crises. Another notable book, The Last Pope by John Hogue, takes a broader perspective. Hogue approaches the prophecy from both a historical and esoteric lens, examining its implications beyond the Catholic Church. He explores how the prophecy resonates with other traditions and prophecies about the end times, creating a comprehensive view of its place in the larger tapestry of human beliefs about the future. Hogue's work offers insights for readers interested in the prophecy's deeper, symbolic meanings rather than just its surface-level predictions. St. Malachys' prophecy remains an enduring enigma, captivating believers and skeptics for centuries. Its vision of a final pope leading through tribulation reflects humanity's fears and hopes, mirroring the challenges of our world today. If you're enjoying this history, consider supporting this journey by hitting Super Thanks. By doing so, you're helping keep these fascinating stories alive, sparking curiosity. The idea of a final pope, described as leading through great tribulation, mirrors the struggles and uncertainties of a rapidly changing world. From environmental crises to social unrest and the evolving challenges within the Church, the prophecy serves as a lens through which we examine the fragility of human existence and the resilience of faith. Pope Francis's papacy continues to fuel speculation, embodying the tension between tradition and change. The prophecy's power lies in its ability to provoke thought and inspire reflection on leadership, faith, and the future. It reminds us that the greatest challenge isn't predicting what lies ahead, but facing uncertainty with resilience. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.